Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is always to take a complex stack of sources and research and really distill it into knowledge you can use.
And today we are tackling a big one.
A very big one. We're doing a focused excavation of a single piece of scripture, Psalm 105. And this isn't just, beautiful poetry. It's really a foundational document.
It truly is. I like to think of Psalm 105 as sort of Israel's official national anthem of memory. It's a narrative that's designed to embed a crucial truth.
Which is?
That God's faithfulness isn't some theoretical concept. It's a demonstrable reality.
Yeah.
And it's rooted in historical action and unbreakable promises, what we call covenants.
That is the core of our deep dive today. We really want to move beyond just a surface reading of this song to a deep, transformative remembering.
Right.
We're going to break down the historical context of God's actions all the way from the promise to Abraham through the Exodus, and then we'll connect those, rock solid ancient truths to our lives right now.
And we should say, we're really grateful that our exploration is being guided by some extraordinary insights, specifically on covenant faithfulness provided by the You Need Faith in Jesus team.
That's right.
Their mission is so consistently focused on connecting the dots between God's ancient reliability and the transformative power of faith in Jesus Christ today.
Yeah.
It's a perfect fit for this psalm.
It really is. The psalm itself is just brilliantly structured to do this. It kicks off with this fiery call to public worship, and then it just launches right into a long, detailed history lesson. The whole point, the design of Psalm 105, is to show that remembering what God did in the past is the direct link to strengthening our faith in the present.
And ensuring the joy of our future.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get into it. The opening.
The mandate.
Right, the mandate for public worship and memory.
Verses 1 through 6.
Okay, let's unpack this opening because it really demands energy. It doesn't sort of ease you into quiet meditation. It throws you right into a public outward thing.
It's a profound public mandate. I mean, the psalmist kicks off with this threefold call to action in just the first couple of verses, and it's inherently communal. It's external. It's even missional in its scope.
Let's put the commands right on the table because they really set the tone for everything that follows. Psalm 105, verse 1 says, "O give thanks unto the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people."
And just look at the progression there. It starts with the internal attitude, right? Giving thanks. That's a foundational conscious choice.
A choice for gratitude.
Exactly. Then it moves vertically, calling upon his name. That's active prayer, praise, directed upward. But then that third command, that's the one that makes faith public. It moves outward. Make known his deeds among the people.
That phrase, among the people, just completely changes the dynamic, doesn't it?
It changes everything.
It's a signal that this isn't for a closed-door meeting of believers. The history of God's faithfulness has to be shared, declared, broadcast to the wider world.
To those who don't know him yet. Precisely. And what's fascinating is how this connects to the history of worship itself.
Oh, how so?
Well, when David brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem and established this public song of praise, the very first words echoed this command. We find it in 1 Chronicles 16, verse 8.
Okay.
It says, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people." It's almost identical. This establishes public declaration as a core practice of tree worship from the very beginning.
So it's non-negotiable. Our faith is meant to be social, shared, which flows right into the next command in Psalm 105, verse 2. "Sing unto him, sing psalms unto him, talk ye of all his wondrous works."
Talk ye of all his wondrous works. And that verb, talk, is just as important as sing.
Right.
A practical challenge that the You Need Faith in Jesus team often highlights is integrating this instruction into our daily lives. I mean, if you think about your conversations this past week, what did you talk about?
The news, work, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
Probably not this.
Right. The psalm instructs us to make our everyday dialogue fundamentally different. Our normal conversation should be seasoned with recollections of God's goodness.
That's a great phrase. Seasoned with recollections.
It transforms sharing your faith from this big, scary event into just a natural, conversational act of remembering. It grounds the faith in reality for the person listening.
That is a genuinely actionable step. It demystifies the whole idea of witnessing. It's just remembering God out loud, in public.
And that posture, that public sharing, connects so deeply to the next instruction about our identity. Look at Psalm 105, verse 3. "Glory ye in his holy name. Let the heart of them rejoice that seek the Lord."
Okay, the word glory or boast, my mind immediately goes to worldly arrogance, boasting about success or money. How do we square that with humility?
That is a critical question, and this is where the scriptural context is just so important. This isn't the arrogant boasting the world celebrates. This is what you might call uh, humble confidence.
Humble confidence. I like that.
It means finding your ultimate joy, your identity, your security, not in anything you've achieved, but entirely and exclusively in God himself, in his reputation, his name.
So it's not self-exaltation, it's God exaltation, and we find our proper place in that, a complete redirection of where we find our value.
And this isn't unique to the Psalms. We see this so clearly in Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 24. It's the ultimate clarification.
What does it say?
But let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth.
Wow.
Our true lasting joy is found only in the active, ongoing pursuit of knowing the Lord's character and his actions.
That pursuit, understanding and knowing him, that perfectly sets up the final part of this opening mandate, doesn't it? The posture of continual seeking and remembering.
It's the spiritual engine that drives the whole thing. Psalm 105, verse 4 commands us, seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his face evermore.
The word evermore, that's the sticking point for a modern rushed listener, isn't it? It suggests this is so much more than just a quick daily devotion.
Or absolutely, to seek his face is this ancient, intimate expression for desiring his personal presence, his favor.
The deeper relationship.
Yes, and adding evermore transforms it from a periodic check-in into a foundational, lifelong posture. It implies persistence, continuity, no matter the circumstances.
And when we feel tired in that persistence, the psalmist immediately gives us the fuel to keep going. In Psalm 105, verse 5, we read, "Remember his marvelous works that he hath done, his wonders and the judgments of his mouth."
You have to consciously strengthen your present faith by remembering his past faithfulness. And then he grounds this in their identity. Right away in Psalm 105, verse 6, O ye seed of Abraham his servant, ye children of Jacob his chosen.
That's such a powerful identity call, reminding them and us that their entire existence, their history, it's all rooted in God's choice, his covenant, not in their own merit.
It's the constant prophetic warning. We see it in Deuteronomy 4, verse 9, which warns about spiritual amnesia.
Right. Lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen.
If we forget the historical, verifiable actions of God, we forget who he is, we forget what he can do, and our faith just becomes fragile, based only on our current feelings.
So the immediate practical step for anyone listening today, drawing from the source and from the message of the You Need Faith in Jesus team, is really twofold. First, adopt that lifelong posture of seeking God daily through prayer and his word. And second, intentionally remember past faithfulness, both in Scripture, which we're doing now, and in your own life.
That memory is the bedrock. And that bedrock of memory is what leads us seamlessly into the next section. The reason why God is worthy of all this.
Because he is a covenant-keeping God.
Exactly.
We move right from the instructions to the universal authority of the one being worshipped. Psalm 105, verse 7, he is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth.
That establishes the scope of his power. He's not some localized tribal deity. He is the God of universal authority over everything.
But his universal authority is tied to his personal promises.
Inextricably linked. That's the anchor of this entire psalm, found in Psalm 105, verse 8. He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations.
Forever. 1,000 generations. I mean, that's ancient language meant to convey something unbreakable, eternal.
It's the definition of reliability. And this is a core message of confidence that the You Need Faith in Jesus team promotes. It assures us that God doesn't change his mind. His word is good.
It demands absolute confidence.
It does. And the psalmist immediately backs up this eternal declaration with a historical chain of evidence. We get this review of the patriarchal covenant in Psalm 105, verses 9 through 11.
Let's read it. Which covenant he made with Abraham and his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying, Unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance.
The structure is so meticulous. It highlights the continuity. It starts with Abraham, it's reaffirmed to his son Isaac, and then confirmed to Jacob, who becomes Israel, cementing it as an everlasting covenant.
Tied to a specific geographical place, the land of Canaan.
And you can trace this all the way back to Genesis.
Yeah.
In Genesis 17, verse 8, God tells Abraham directly, And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession.
So every single act of deliverance, every wonder the psalmist is about to list, it all stems from this unconditional oath God swore centuries before to one man.
And that's the ultimate lesson of confidence for us today. I mean, if God was so meticulously, historically faithful to that unconditional promise of physical land, a promise that took generations to fulfill,
Yeah.
how much more can we be completely confident in the spiritual promises of the new covenant,
Yeah.
the one sealed by the blood of Jesus Christ? His word is absolutely unbreakable.
And this is where the story pivots. It creates this real dramatic tension. The psalmist immediately contrasts the massive, eternal nature of that promise
An everlasting covenant.
with the tiny, fragile reality of the people who got it.
Yes. It's the contrast between the majesty of God's plan and the utter inadequacy of his people. God promised an everlasting possession, yet in Psalm 105, verse 12, we're reminded, when they were but a few men in number, yea, very few, and strangers in it.
They were numerically insignificant, just a single small family, not an army. And they were nomads, wandering from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people, which is verse 13.
They are the definition of vulnerable, totally dependent on the mercy of these powerful kingdoms they're passing through.
And this vulnerability is so crucial because it highlights their absolute dependence on God. They had no natural defense.
None. Yet, what was the result? The psalmist answers in Psalm 105, verses 14 and 15. He suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes, saying, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm.
He reproved kings for their sakes. I mean, that's just a statement of staggering sovereign power. Earthly rulers meant absolutely nothing when they came up against God's plan for this tiny, wandering family.
And this wasn't just a general theoretical protection. The sources point us to specific incidents, like with Abimelech, king of Gerar, over Sarah. That's in Genesis 20.
Right.
God intervenes directly, not with an army, but with a terrifying spiritual warning.
Oh.
In Genesis 20, verse 3, God speaks to Abimelech in a dream and says, behold, thou art but a dead man for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife.
Wow. That's God intervening at the highest level of human power, a king's court, to protect one vulnerable woman and her husband, all because they were part of that covenant line.
It wasn't Abraham's strength or his cleverness that saved them. It was God's sovereign defense of his promise. And this all hinges on that term, anointed, in verse 15.
Okay, what does that mean here?
In this context, it just refers to their special status. They were chosen, set apart by God for his specific purposes. They were untouchable, not because they were strong, but because they were his.
That provides so much comfort for anyone listening who feels small or powerless today.
It does. The application is that if we belong to Christ, we are also set apart, chosen, and under God's sovereign protection. A protection that is demonstrably stronger than any earthly authority. This promise, touch not mine anointed, applies to all who are chosen by him through faith.
Okay, so from the general protection of the patriarchs, the psalm now zooms in on a specific, detailed narrative,
The story of Joseph.
but viewed exclusively through the lens of God's sovereign control. This is the classic paradox of providence.
It is the ultimate illustration that God is never just reacting to human events, he's proactively orchestrating them, even the painful parts. And the psalmist begins with a really challenging statement in Psalm 105, verses 16 and 17.
Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread. He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant.
Let's just stop there. It was God who called for a famine. It was God who sent a man. This forces us to acknowledge that the environmental disaster, the famine, and the human trafficking Joseph being sold were both part of God's provision plan.
That's a huge concept to wrestle with.
It's the immense scope of biblical sovereignty. Joseph's brothers acted in profound sin and malice. They intended evil, yet God was simultaneously working his good plan through their evil actions.
So they thought they were getting rid of him.
But God was just arranging the logistics for his provision decades in advance.
But we can't just gloss over Joseph's suffering. The psalmist is very specific about the hardship in Psalm 105, verses 18 and 19, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron, until the time that his word came. The word of the Lord tried him.
Laid in iron. That's not a metaphor. He was physically shackled, chained in a dungeon. It was intense, unjust suffering.
But the structure of verse 19 is the anchor for us. It says the suffering had a divine timeline, until the time that his word came.
It had a shelf life determined by God, and the purpose was testing. The word of the Lord tried him. Joseph was holding on to these prophetic dreams of authority, while his reality was the complete opposite. He was tested by God's own word until the perfect moment for fulfillment arrived.
So the suffering wasn't random, it was refining him.
Exactly. Preparing him for the immense responsibility to come.
That is such a critical truth for anyone enduring a long delay right now. The difficulty you're facing isn't proof that God's promise failed. It might be the very process by which He is trying you.
And the fulfillment, when it came, was just total and comprehensive. It elevated him to a position of staggering power. Psalm 105, verses 20 through 22, tells the story.
The king sent and loosed him. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance, to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his senators wisdom.
I mean, think about that. From a dungeon to the highest office in the global superpower of the day, he was given authority to govern economically and significantly to teach his senators wisdom. He became the source of strategy for the kingdom.
And this connects to Joseph's own realization years later when he finally confronts his brothers.
The definitive theological statement on providence, Genesis 50, verse 20. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive.
That's the ultimate takeaway. And it's an insight that you need faith in Jesus' team consistently provides for believers facing hardship.
The insight is this: God is never surprised by difficult, painful, or unjust human actions. He is perfectly able to take the very worst that humanity or disaster can inflict and turn it into a source of great blessing and deliverance. He accomplishes His perfect will. That perspective just fundamentally changes how we endure suffering.
So the Joseph narrative transitions now into the broader national story. Jacob's family in Egypt, their growth, and then slavery.
Right. Psalm 105, verse 23 sets the stage. Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
They came in as guests, but the covenant promised a great nation, so the population had to grow.
And it did, miraculously. Psalm 105, verse 24. And He increased His people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. They were fruitful and multiplied, just as promised.
But that rapid growth led directly to the national crisis. And this is where the psalmist makes that startling statement in Psalm 105, verse 25. He turned their heart to hate His people, to deal subtly with their servants.
Okay, this is a profound and challenging statement. He turned their heart. We have to be careful here. This doesn't mean God forced the Egyptians to act against their nature.
Right.
It means that God, in His sovereign control, allowed and directed their natural tendency towards sin, their fear, their xenophobia, to intensify and become institutional oppression.
And the historical account in Exodus 1 confirms that the new Pharaoh feared their growth.
Exactly. And God directed that fear and oppression to set the stage for a spectacular, history-defining deliverance, a deliverance that would bring Him maximum glory.
The stage was set, and when the time was right, the sovereign plan continued. Psalm 105, verse 26. He sent Moses his servant and Aaron whom He had chosen.
The deliverers arrive, and the confrontation begins. He was executed through His signs and wonders, as verse 27 says. And these plagues were not random. They were meticulously designed acts of divine power.
Designed to do what, specifically?
To demonstrate God's unique authority over every single Egyptian false god. The purpose was instruction. God says it Himself in Exodus 10, verse 2, that it was so they would know how that I am the Lord.
Okay, let's slow down and go through the list of plagues the psalmist includes. They really confirm God's absolute power.
The psalmist starts, interestingly, with darkness, not blood. A direct assault on the sun god, Ra. Psalm 105, verse 28 says, He sent darkness and made it dark. This suffocating darkness was a physical picture of their spiritual darkness.
Then the water to blood. Targeting the Nile, the god Happy, verse 29. He turned their waters into blood and slew their fish. The source of their life became a source of death.
Followed by the frogs, verse 30. Their land brought forth frogs in abundance in the chambers of their kings. Even the most protected spaces were invaded, a judgment against the frog goddess Hecate.
Then the nuisance plagues. The flies and lice, verse 31.
He spake, and there came diverse sorts of flies and lice in all their coasts. These targeted minor deities and showed that even the smallest creatures were under His control.
Then the spectacular destruction from the sky, hail and fire.
Yes, Psalm 105, verse 32. He gave them hail for rain and flaming fire in their land, a direct challenge to the sky goddess Nut and the storm god Set.
Which led to the destruction of their agriculture. Verse 33 says He destroyed their vines and fig trees,
wiping out their future economy. And then, whatever was left, the locust came and devoured it. That's verses 34 and 35. It was total economic ruin for the oppressors.
And finally, The culminating judgment that broke Pharaoh's will.
The death of the firstborn. Psalm 105, verse 36. He smote also all the firstborn in their land, the chief of all their strength.
This targeted Pharaoh himself, who was seen as a god.
Exactly. By striking the firstborn, God proved that even the perceived divine life of the nation was subject to his judgment. The takeaway is that no power on earth can successfully stand against the will of God.
And the climax of this, the Exodus itself, was marked by this incredible provision. Psalm 105, verses 37 and 38 describe it. He brought them forth also with silver and gold, and there was not one feeble person among their tribes. Egypt was glad when they departed.
The dual provision there is key. First, the wealth. Silver and gold. This was back pay for centuries of slavery and a fulfillment of the promise to Abraham in Genesis 15.
And second, the health. Not one feeble person. They were leaving slavery, but they weren't broken. They were physically ready for the journey.
God was equipping them. And their oppressors. Egypt was glad to see them go. The fear of God had totally gripped them.
The application is so comforting. God not only delivers, but he also provides and equips us for the journey he calls us to.
From the destruction of Egypt, the psalm now shifts to the ultimate test of dependence.
The wilderness.
A barren, lethal setting. It starts with supernatural guidance. Psalm 105, verse 39. He spread a cloud for a covering and fire to give light in the night. Their map and their climate control.
Then the physical sustenance. Every day for 40 years. Verse 40 talks about the food. The people asked, and he brought quails and satisfied them with the bread of heaven.
Quail and manna. And then the most essential element, water. Verse 41. He opened the rock, and the waters gushed out. They ran in the dry places like a river. Not a trickle. A river from a rock.
And these incredible physical provisions all point to a deeper spiritual reality, right? One that the New Testament really unpacks for us.
Yes, this is where the Old Testament history connects powerfully to our faith today. The Apostle Paul explains it in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 4.
What does he say?
He reflects on that generation and says, "And did all drink the same spiritual drink? For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ."
Wow. So the physical rock was a prophetic picture.
Paul says it explicitly. The life-giving water flowed from the pre-existing Christ. So every time they drank, they were being sustained by a picture of Jesus.
And that is the core faith that the You Need Faith in Jesus team promotes. That these historical acts of God are prophetic pictures pointing directly to the person and work of Jesus Christ. He's our ultimate guide, our protection, the true bread of life.
And the source of living water for our spiritual thirst.
So we've traveled across centuries of history. The psalmist now brings this whole sprawling narrative to a concise, stunning conclusion.
He summarizes the ultimate reason for everything God did.
And it starts by going back to the beginning, Psalm 105, verse 42. For he remembered his holy promise and Abraham his servant. Every single miracle stems from that foundational covenant promise.
God acts because he is faithful to his own word. And the immediate result was joyful deliverance and the inheritance of the land. That's verses 43 and 44. They inherited wealth they didn't earn, homes they didn't build.
Pure grace. But that grace and deliverance had an ultimate purpose, a telos, which is the capstone of the whole psalm.
The purpose is stated plainly in the final verse, Psalm 105, verse 45, that they might observe his statutes and keep his laws. Praise ye the Lord.
This is so crucial. Salvation wasn't just about getting to a physical place or being free from slavery. The ultimate goal was to create a people who would live in a joyful, obedient relationship with him.
It completely reframes the purpose of redemption. Obedience is presented as the joyful, grateful result of deliverance, not the burdensome prerequisite for it. It's the only appropriate response to such overwhelming historical faithfulness.
Which connects back to Deuteronomy 6, verse 24, where it says, God's commands are always for our good, always.
So the final summary, drawing from the insights of the You Need Faith in Jesus team, is this. God saves us by grace through faith in Jesus Christ so that we could be transformed into a people who joyfully walk in obedience to him.
And the only appropriate response to that kind of faithfulness is a life of grateful obedience and, as the psalm says, heartfelt praise.
Praise ye the Lord.
This deep dive into Psalm 105 has really shown that faith isn't a blind leap. It's rooted firmly in the verifiable history of God's actions. He is eternally reliable because he's proven himself to be historically reliable.
We started with the mandate for public memory, and we ended with the purpose of redemption. Every single miracle, the covenant, Joseph, the plagues, the wilderness, All of it serves to strengthen our present ability to seek him and obey him.
Look back to remember so you can look forward with confidence. That is the key takeaway for you, the learner, today.
And this emphasis on historical, transforming faith that leads to joyful obedience. That is the mission so powerfully championed by the You Need Faith in Jesus team.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to carry with you. If God was so demonstrably faithful to his promises to a small, wandering family centuries ago, protecting them, guiding them, providing for them, what specific challenge in your life right now is he proving his covenant-keeping nature through? Even if you don't yet see the Joseph-like fulfillment or the Exodus-level deliverance.
And let's get specific. Based on that very first instruction in the Psalm, what is one simple conversational way you can make known his deeds this week? Not just in your own heart, but publicly. Seasoning your conversations with recollections of God's goodness. Take that historical confidence and share it today.